Nine games going in the MLB tonight, Monday, June 17th. But which game should you be betting? That's what you're here to find out. Dan Alexander back here with you, and joining me, two of the best on the diamond. That's right, Drew Martin making his triumphant return here to First Pitch. We're happy to have him back, and Adam Trigger as well in the saddle to talk some Monday MLB, some new series opening up here for you, and some great handicaps, some interesting games here, I think, on a Monday slate, and some decent pitching matchups as well that we'll be getting into. Some of the games we'll be covering here today: St. Louis, Miami, the Dodgers, the Rockies, Reds, Pirates, Cubs, and Giants. And, of course, the games that you watching live here want to hear about. But, Drew, welcome on back, brother. Congrats on the wedding, but we're happy to have you back here with us live on air. Let's talk St. Louis and Miami because really since mid-May, Drew, this has been a completely different Cards team that we thought we were getting this year in the MLB. Now they're sitting at 500, and they got a trip to Miami here on the docket. You think they keep that hot streak on rolling, fresh off of that win they got on Sunday here on the first game of this new series? What do we think, Drew?
Yeah, Dan, thanks for having me back, buddy. And I do think they get it done. But, in the sport of baseball, like sports betting overall, it comes down to price point. Minus 150 is a bit expensive on the Redbirds, in my opinion. Now, granted, they're up against the Marlins, and this is coming from a lifelong Marlins fan. I mean, this team, 25 games under 500, already playing for next season. They lost 5 straight. They're just 12-25 at home, 7-17 against teams 500 or better. So this Fish team is just fade city. And oh, by the way, they're just 2-11 their last 13. I can't get on the Marlins in this price point. I know we can kind of make cases for the home dog barking, but against the Redbirds, I'm not there. Dan, you mentioned they're already to 500 off of the rough start. They're 6.5 games back of the Brew Crew. They're right in the mix in terms of the NL playoff race. They've won 2 of 3 in back-to-back series against the Cubbies and the Pirates. So making a case for the Cards is there for sure. It's just minus 150, a little pricey. And the thing here, Dan, I'm a big lefty-righty splits guy. I also like home-away stats, but lefty-righty splits here. The Cards have struggled against southpaws. They're actually the second worst hitting lineup against lefties. The only one worse is the Marlins. I guess that doesn't matter in this case because they're facing a righty. But that's what's keeping me off of laying this price with the Cardinals. However, they have Sonny Gray on the hill, the former first-rounder out of Vanderbilt. And I like Sonny Gray. He changes speeds well. He's up against the Marlins lineup that really they don't hit anybody very well. And I think that his strikeout prop here at 6.5, I think it's a bit low. I really do, Dan. I think they're going to ride him here because they have had some bullpen issues. And, Braxton Garrett on the other side, he's a guy that's been up and down really all season. Sometimes he'll go out there, throw 8 or 9 innings, blanking his opponent. That's another reason to kind of maybe pump the brakes on the Cardinals. But overall, I'm looking to fade this Marlins lineup, and that puts us on Sonny Gray. 6.5 is the strikeout prop now. The sports books were kind of waiting to put this one out. I'm not really sure why, but I think part of the reason why is because they didn't know where to exactly put it. So we're going to put it in our pocket here. Sonny Gray, 6.5 strikeout prop. Bet it up and over, Dan.
I like it. A little pitcher prop here out of the gate, looking towards that Cards side. Shout out to the chat joining us here. And while you're joining us, make sure you hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe and click that little bell. You'll get notified when we go live here. But Tyler in the chat in all caps, he's jazzed up with you, Drew. He says, Sonny Gray on the mound, just looked outside and all I saw was blue skies. Cards any style today. So we're looking at Sonny Gray going over. That one around minus 125. If you also think that Sonny Gray is going to go deep in this game and the Cards get it done, hey, why not, instead of laying that price, go back to what we love to do here, gentlemen, and that's pitcher to record a win. Sonny Gray gets it done, you change that minus 150 into a plus 120. I'm just saying. I haven't put it on my card, but looking at that price here in Drew's breakdown, if that's how you see the game shaking out, Could be a way to get a little plus money in your pocket there. Hop below in the comments. Let us know if this is a pass for you. What game are you betting here tonight? Because we're going to swing it to a game that Trig, talk about prices making sense here. Reds and Pirates. I mean, I get it. You see Skeens on the mound, so if you want to talk me into that first 5 price for the Pittsburgh Pirates, sure. But looking at this game price, and unless we get Skeens tossing a no-no, we are going to see the Pirates bullpen at some point. And what's been the thorn in the side after Skeens will leave the mound with a lead has been that bullpen blowing up games for him. So I look at this price, and the odds makers know that the bullpen likely is going to be in the game at some point, right here, Trig, because this one just kind of has me scratching my head. I get the first 5, don't get me wrong, and I know you got to have that extrapolate to the full game, but this price, full game for the Pirates, does not make sense to me.
No, I had a best bet on the Rockies on Saturday night, fading. I guess you would call it a similar situation. Jared Jones has gotten a lot of love this year too. The Pirates were on the road as a $2 favorite, and I guess my general argument is sort of what you sort of kicked off, Dan. Both of these teams are 34 and 37, but like in my opinion, the Reds are a far superior team to the Pirates. I know that you could probably argue with me on like potential upside and stuff, but I think when you look at these two rosters, you take into consideration the lineups. You touched on the bullpen. The Pirates bullpen is not nearly what it was last year with guys like Bednar struggling, like Aroldis Chapman, who's on the back end of his career has been like their best reliever. So it hasn't been as good. You can't have the Pirates be a $2 favorite. Now, you have Paul Skeens. He's been tremendous, right? Like he's a generational talent, and the hype was warranted. The upside is insane. But when you get past all of that, the 2.43 ERA, 0.96 whip, his numbers sort of match up this small sample size with the elite pitchers in Major League Baseball. But as we know, the elite guys still lose. The Scherzers and the guys that are in their prime and that have the below 1 whip, there's no guarantee that when they step on the mound, it's a win. And I would say that in the Pirates case and in Skeens' case, it's even more like a stark contrast from when he's in the game to when he's out of the game, because this is not a good lineup and they don't have the bullpen guys. Now here on the other side, you have Carson Spires, who's a very solid, capable arm. And you're going to, big league numbers, 2.33 ERA, 1.19 whip. What you're going to hear a lot of today is, he's been doing that out of the bullpen. Those are numbers in relief. Hasn't made a start yet this year. And this is the difference between, do you follow and watch AAA, or are you just looking at the big league stats? Because Carson Spires has made 8 starts at Louisville. He's essentially been a starter all year, and his numbers at Louisville are very strong. 2.51 ERA at Louisville, where he's pretty much been a starter, has regularly gone 6 innings and starts. He's here now to take the spot of Graham Ashcraft, who just got sent down. So this is not like a reliever making a start. This is not a bullpen game. This is Spires, and he's going to go at this as a normal start. So, he could very well match Skeens in terms of giving the Reds 5 or 6 quality innings. And then if you get to the late innings of this game and you're tied or it's a close game, I think the Reds have a huge advantage. Now, to give yourself a better chance to win this game, maybe you look at the run line. I think the bookmakers did a really good job here in pricing this at minus 130. It was a little bit out of the range of what I would have wanted to pay for the plus 1.5. If this is 20 cents cheaper, it's probably on my client card. But you got to be really careful, Dan, with just laying minus 130 every time you see a favorable plus 1.5 line, because that's how the books will get you over the long term. But there's no question that the later innings here favor the Reds. Drew was talking a second ago about the Marlins and the Cardinals, made a lot of good points. And one thing that those teams, have in common are they don't score. Their run differentials are as bad as it gets in the NL. The Pirates are right down there with them. The only teams in the National League with worse run differential this season than the Pirates are the Cardinals, the Marlins, and the Rockies. That's the bottom of the barrel in the NL. I've seen a lot of hype for the Pirates recently about a team that could potentially make the playoffs. Dan, old takes exposed me on this show, and clip this and bring it back in September if the Pirates are even sniffing a playoff spot. I don't think there's any chance that happens. They're still a bad baseball team coming into the year, 16-1 to win the NL Central. There's a reason for that. They're even after the Skeens call up, they're only 2 games over 500 with him. He can only pitch once every 5th day. He's a really good starting pitcher, but he's on what I consider to still be a very bad Pirates baseball team. And so for that reason, I'm going to continue to go at them when they're a $2 favorite, because I just don't think there's many scenarios where they should be. I like the Reds here, and if I was going to play this game, it would be plus 1.5. Get that extra at bat with the visitors.
Trig putting old takes exposed on notice there. All right, noted. We will clip. We got the whole season to be bringing you back here, man. So we'll see. Does the Pirates slump of all slumps come, and they're nowhere near a playoff spot? Nowhere near, says Trig. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what you think about the gauntlet being tossed down there. Speaking of the comments, guys, I know both of you're not really total bettors, but our man Titan CT, we'll talk about this Rangers game because I think it's intriguing from a side perspective, too, if you just even think about what the Mets getting plus money price coming into town on the torrid run that they are on. But Titan CT says, don't make sense total of the day. Rangers over the 8. It was 8.5. One sharp book still showing 8.5, but pretty much 8 painted across the board after some under money came in this game, though we are seeing that 8 juiced towards the over. It's Gray, it's Peterson. Drew, I'll start with you because we talked about in your first game a team who has been on a tear, at least as far as it goes, general to how they were all season. The Mets have been as Jekyll and Hyde as anyone, but right now it's all Hyde and it's all hitting. What was it? 18-8 was that score that they were able to drop in the series against the Padres. So I don't know if I want to step in front of this Mets train, but at this plus money price, it makes a heck of a lot of sense to just keep riding that. Any thoughts on the total? Any thoughts here on the side for this one? And we'll get Trig's thoughts as well.
Yeah, sure, Dan. I mean, Titan CT, first off, shout out to him. He's always coming up with good little tidbits in the sports betting world. But I'll say this, Dan. The thing that keeps me off of betting the over is this Texas Rangers team. They have kind of a negative lefty-righty dichotomy working here because they're up against Peterson and they've struggled against southpaws. So that's one thing that would make me pump the brakes a little bit, Titan CT. But in this game, actually, it sounds like I'm siding with you, Dan. I mean, the red-hot Mets, it always felt this season like they would get it going at some point. And sure enough, winning 5 straight, they're starting to flirt with 500 baseball, getting back in the mix if possible postseason here. They've also been good on the road. They're over 500 on the road. And Peterson, not a lot of sample size, Dan, but in the shorts, he's got 3 starts here. What about a 4 ERA and FIP? I think he could actually have a decent start. And John Gray, great numbers. He's really having like a career year, the first rounder out of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner out there. But he only went 3 innings last time out. When he had that, he was a little bit banged up and then coming back. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on a pitch count. And the Rangers bullpen has had all types of issues. So I actually like the plus price on the Metropolitans, Dan. I'm with you. I jumped on him plus 107 with Peterson on the hill, winning 5 straight games. Give me the Mets.
Yeah, and it almost feels like, Brian Leonard was on WagerTalk today earlier, and if you want to catch all of our shows, great ways to make sure you're subscribed and you hit that little bell. You'll get us when we go live. These guys broke down damn near every game on the baseball card. The one that they didn't hit, we'll, of course, get you to here, and we're the only show taking your live questions all along the way, so more reasons than ever to check us out here on First Pitch. But Trig, for me too, the one concern, and I think Drew laid it out there well, is not only going against lefties, but for Texas, what was it, 5-0 in the game yesterday? So if you even just want to go by recent form, 2 hits, 1 at bat with runners in scoring position, like this isn't an offense unless the Mets continue contributing, which hell with how they've been hitting. Sure, they could hit the over by themselves if they keep on rolling here into Texas, but that would be the concern for me back in the over, and I think maybe that factors in why maybe we saw some under money here when the markets opened. Any thoughts on this one? And then I got another dog dog that I want to throw your guys' way that we had brought up in the chat here. But Mets getting plus money with the run that they're on seems too easy to me here, Trig.
Yeah, I have a bunch of thoughts on this one. I'll address the total first, since that's what the original question was asked. Like, I wouldn't want to have to play over here. Drew made a lot of good points, many of which I agree with. As far as Peterson, he's a guy that was here in Syracuse rehabbing, made a few starts earlier this year. So I follow the local media here, and he's someone that, talked about pitching pain-free for like the first time in years. Because, of course, he had, I think it was hip surgery in the past offseason, which is why the start of his season was delayed. I think I talked about, in his first couple starts back, look at this guy as like a potential guy to play on because, in previous seasons, he was pitching through pain and pitching through injury. And so I still think Peterson has some upside there. I would prefer the Mets with him and just the way they're rolling right now to the Rangers with John Gray, who the Mets have owned, by the way. So like there's your one angle. Like if you want to play over, maybe take Mets team total over, and then you only have to get over 3.5 juice to like minus 130. That's not a horrible bet because they have crushed John Gray. Really good numbers against John Gray. My only issue with that is, they just swept the Padres, like a big high for them last weekend. Do they fall into the flat spot a little bit on the road? That's my only concern. But they do have very good numbers against Gray. The Rangers, I will circle back with them at some point. I don't think they're this bad. They're a team that, even coming off of a World Series win, as a team that wasn't supposed to get to the World Series, I still liked this team coming into this year, and it's notable that they have not even been close to being healthy. Like there's still a lot of guys in the pipeline coming back that haven't been healthy. So I wouldn't just totally bail on the Rangers yet. But right now, another reason I'm not dying to back an over here and not dying to get involved with the Rangers is they just have not hit. Drew pointed out some good splits against left-handed pitching, but this team hasn't hit at all. So does it happen to start tonight? I don't know. I'll throw one more thing out there. Who would you rather have, Dan, long-term to like make the playoffs? The Mets or the Pirates? Because these teams right now are 33. The Mets are a half game behind the Pirates. This is what I'm talking about. Like, that team is so much more likely to make the playoffs than the Pirates. So, like, like that's why I just can't understand the love for Pittsburgh. I know there's a lot of bad teams in the NL, but I do think the Mets can, kind of continue this mini surge now that they're hitting. So I don't know if I think best scenario here would be to ride with Drew. I think plus money with the Mets right now until they give you a reason otherwise. They've been hitting ever since the players only meeting. Since Lindor called that meeting, they have been a different team. Mm-hmm. And the bullpen that blew all those games in May, like this is worth pointing out too, individually, all of those relievers are really good. So like it almost is it's like unfathomable that the bullpen blew as many games as they did in May. I don't think you're going to see the Mets lose close games anymore, at least like not for the foreseeable future. They're now pulling out the close games. The Mets are kind of a team I'd rather back than fade at this point. So I'm with Drew.
That was masterful as well, Trig, somehow fitting in some Pirates slander into the Mets breakdown there. That was well done. That was expertly, if you were paying attention, you saw it just get slid right on in there. But that's the thoughts there from our guys. You can check them out over at WagerTalk.com. Also, 2 great follows on X as well, at Drew Martin Betts. You can find him there, and at Top Flight SI. Definitely check those guys out there over on Twitter. I'm at Newbie Talks. Gentlemen, we had some questions about dogs here in the chat and how Monday might be a dog day. Someone was saying that the one that they are eyeing is taking the Red Sox at some plus money. For me, Drew, San Diego, Philadelphia. I mean, I get it. Trey Turner's coming back here for the Phillies. I get it that, every team goes through slumps, but this is one of those patented Phillies slumps that we've kind of been waiting for the fade spots here. And it is a nice plus money price to take the dog of San Diego heading on in to Citizens Bank Park here. I'm wondering what the thoughts are for you in this one. I mean, when they go into these slumps like yesterday, what was it? 2 of 14 with runners in scoring position. And that has been the story year after year for this team. When they're rolling, but when they're not, they are certainly not The dog for me today, Drew, and it might be surprising, is going against my Philadelphia Phillies. What do you think in this game?
Interesting take there, Dan. I'll tell you this. Sidewise, it didn't interest me too much. I touched the total a little bit. It's just, you know what, the Padres, they get swept by the Mets. They got Vazquez on the hill. He's had 2 bad starts against Colorado. Otherwise, he's been pretty good. And in the Battle of Dominicans here, the 2 starting pitchers, Sanchez on the hill for the Phillies. He's had some walk issues, but talk about home road dichotomy. He's got a sub-2 ERA in Philadelphia. So that's something that I took notice of. I think the market as well, the odds makers here and setting this price, he's got over a 4 ERA on the road. So we want to be looking to fade him when he's pitching outside of Philadelphia. But tonight, being at home, number 2 record in baseball overall. They have lost back-to-back series against Boston and Baltimore. 2, I would say, tough opponents. Not that the Padres aren't. They're just a game under 500 right now. I actually like the under here. And I know the wind is blowing a little bit out and it's a hitter's ballpark. I just think Sanchez has a solid start. I think Vazquez, this Phillies lineup, you mentioned some stats there. There is questions. I'm not laying the price tag with the Phillies, Dan, but seeing this total, we do get a pretty hefty total, if you will, at 9 in the hook. 5-4, we still cash an under. I actually like the under in the first game up, Dan, the Padres and the Phillies.
Yeah, that could make a heck of a lot of sense to me, too, especially that key number. Getting that hook above that 9, I like that look as it kind of correlates with how I'm seeing this game shaking out. And it's just how many runs do the Phils contribute? If you even look at that 11-6 loss for the Padres, that kind of was the highlight of that weekend that showed that scoring differential between their last series. There was still a 6 on the board for the Padres. You got to go back to when they were playing the Red Sox, and it was a losing effort that the Phils scored 6. So, Trig, for you, I mean, I know that you were saying, hey, that this pitching rotation for the Phillies has to fall at some point. And I will say the weak link, the entirety of the this pitching rotation had been Sanchez. So what's the thoughts on you? See Tyler going team total over for the Phillies tonight. I mean, the price isn't awful, but that wouldn't be a look that I would be adding. How do you see this game shaking out?
No, I wouldn't be on that either. That's pretty. I mean, I think they're asking you to get 5.5. That's I don't know if you're getting 5.5 with the Phillies here. So this is again very similar to the Reds. 20 cents difference, and I'm probably jumping in here. I like the Padres as well. I would love to get them plus 1.5 with the road team. Get that extra at bat. There's a lot of scenarios where the game lands 1 when you've got a road team plus 1.5. Basically any walk-off win for the Phillies other than a grand slam or like a multi-run homer is going to land 1. Randy Vazquez, Dan, we've done videos on this guy over the last couple weeks. He's come up on first pitch. I think he's improving. He struggled when he was called up originally. It's because he probably shouldn't have been called up at all, but the Padres kind of got, forced into that situation with Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove going on the IL. But he's using his fastball more now. It's helped him tremendously. Last 4 starts for Vazquez, 3.97 ERA. And this is a guy that throws like 5 or 6 pitches. So it really pitch mix is important. And those first few starts, he just didn't have it. Now he's throwing the fastball more. Everything else is more effective. So Randy Vazquez has quickly become a guy that I went from wanting to play against because he looked like such a mess at El Paso. And then in his first couple games up with the Padres, to a guy that I'm actually pretty comfortable playing on at this point. He just is pretty steady, and I think he could keep this Phillies lineup off balance. So the Phillies also fall into a situation that I love to fade, right? They've been on the road forever. They went to London. Yep. They came back and had to go to Boston. They then had to go from Boston to Baltimore. Now they come home with no off day. And those are not just like walk in the park series, right? Going to London, playing your rival. Come back, go to Fenway. Have to play the Orioles, who are as good of a team as you're going to find in baseball. That's really tough. And typically teams off of a very long layoff that have to come home. I said this on WagerTalk today. These are still human beings, right? Like when you're away from home for 2 weeks and then you get home, usually takes a day or 2 to get recalibrated. It's still the case for big league baseball players. And oftentimes on a road trip like that, when they're traveling home, there's typically an off day. Not here. They had to play in Baltimore yesterday. They now have to play at home tonight. So, Dan, the only problem I have here in going against that, the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park the last 2 months since April 15th are 23-3. That's ridiculous.
So true.
I knew it was
Yeah.
good. I knew it was good. I didn't realize it was that good. Another thing you're going to see get thrown around today is the Phillies are 37-16 against teams with a sub 500 record. Guess what? The Padres, I don't care what the record says. That's not a sub 500 baseball team. Yes, they just got swept by the Mets, so they're under 500 today. In 2 weeks, the Padres won't be under 500. They're not going to stay under 500 the rest of the year. I just don't, especially with how weak the NL is. We started talking about some of these teams that are in contention in the NL, like basically everyone other than the Rockies and the Marlins. The Padres are going to get their share of wins, and so I don't consider them to be a sub 500 team. So I will get involved with the Padres at some point in this series, most likely. But one final note here: they are much better against right-handed pitching. Specifically, Fernando Tatis doesn't hit lefties well, and it seems like when he goes, the lineup goes a little bit. So those are my concerns. Lean toward the Padres. The spot is good for them. I would take the plus 1.5, but there's too much. There's too many things in the Phillies' favor that keep me off here.
Yeah, we got Zoe Fooley over there in the YouTube Shorts feed. He doesn't trust Christopher Sanchez. He's been hard to, especially as Drew underscored. Yep. It's been the walks that have really bit him. Go ahead, Trig.
He's got a 1.39 whip. That's below average when you're talking about starting pitching. His ERA is like 3. I think he's probably been a little fortunate. So I don't hate the idea of playing against Sanchez. It's just the fact that the Padres haven't done much against lefties that scares me a little bit. But I'll look to go against him in the future, in the near future, probably.
I'm glad I got my man Zoe Fooley over there looking towards San Diego, because typically I'm the homer going against the chat. This time the chat is telling me, back your Phillies. What are we doing? Let's play on the Phillies here tonight. I can't get there, but best of luck to everyone else. Bill Seibert saying Phillies all the way. Pods are slumping and terrible against lefties. I can't really refute that. That's maybe why what our man Drew Martin said, looking towards the under, might be worth a look. And I'm glad that JRT is bringing up this Red Sox team. Rolled over the Yanks last night. Would they be a good play against a shady Blue Jays team, excuse me. And I was just about to go to this game. So we're simpatico there, JRT. So make sure you hit that like. Appreciate you doing my segue job for me here, because this one for me, Drew, I mean, I know you got Kikuchi on the mound. I would maybe even think of a Boston first 5. Don't let that bullpen blow me up. But Boston has to be coming here with so much confidence after not only beating the Yankees, they rolled the Yankees. And if you even just look outside of that series, 7 of their past 11. So this Boston team quietly, I think, because there's so many other teams that are maybe getting those headlines like the Mets, this has been a quiet little wagon here. And I don't see why that wagon changes, especially in the first 5 going here into Toronto. Any thoughts on this game for you, Drew?
Sure, Dan. I mean, I'm with you. You know, a lot of people in the beginning of the season, preseason, were kind of down on the Red Sox. Obviously a tough division in the AL East. But you're right. I mean, they've been playing good baseball. I was on the wrong side of them for Sunday night baseball. It's an interesting handicap in terms of, you know, they just played the Yankees in a series. So now they're coming off of a big series, Sunday night baseball with travel. They're up against Kikuchi, who, you know, the Blue Jays have won each of the last 2 Kikuchi starts. He's been good. And, oh, by the way, they were against the Orioles, you know, and the first place Milwaukee Brewers. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kikuchi has a pretty good start here. The Jays have won 2 straight overall. They've won 7 of 11, so they're also playing good baseball. They're only a game under 500 off of that, you know, tough start to the season. This is a tricky handicap for me, Dan. It really is. I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Sox drop one here. I do like the Toronto Blue Jays, got a minus 120 earlier. It seems to be bumped up a little bit. I think the market is something I've noticed that the market does is take this Sunday night baseball fade seriously. And we get it here almost in full effect with the Red Sox off of the Yankees game. So I would go with the Jays and Rogers north of the border, but it's not one that I love off the board, Dan.
And we do have best bets coming up here. We're going to talk LA Dodgers and Colorado. We're going to talk Cubs and Giants. That's coming your way in just a few moments here, but I want to get Trig's thoughts on this game. And Trig, it may be more anecdotal than anything, and it really is, but Kikuchi, he's been hot coming off a nice win against the Brewers. However, when he has fared against this Boston Red Sox team, historically, 7 career appearances, 5 starts, 6.11 ERA, 0-2. So if I want to ride some historical data, which, again, makes no difference here, it could at least help me feel better about maybe looking towards a Boston Red Sox dog ticket here. Anything for you in this one before we get on over to best bets?
I wish I could bet against both. Like that's my honest opinion
That's
here.
Fair. I'll bet off that horrible outing against
you know
my
what I'm
Phils.
saying, though?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
The Red Sox just took 2 of 3 from the Phillies and the Yankees and played on Sunday Night Baseball. So that's a horrible spot for them. Like, there's no question about it. This is a bad spot for the Red Sox. The Jays just took 2 of 3 from the Guardians. Bo Bichette has been out, and they just used their good bullpen guys, which they don't have many of them. So they're not in a good spot either. I think I prefer Kikuchi to Pivetta right now, only because it feels like Kikuchi's going to have like a career year. I feel like he's thrown harder. There just looks like there's more life on his pitches. I've watched his last couple starts, and he's not really a guy that I am like dying to play against at the moment. So, but yeah, again, I don't see how you get involved in this game. Like, there's zero angle that I can even really like. I'd wish we could bet against both of them. We can't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't want to. I'd be worried about the team total over for the Red Sox because of what I just said. They just went off against the Yankees the last 2 nights. Like, change of scenery. They're not at Fenway. Some travel. Like this, that's not the best setup to bet a team total over. This could be the spot where they come out flat. So that's a tough one. I really don't have much. Well, it is Kikuchi's birthday. And that I can confirm.
And yeah, Kikuchi's birthday. So birthday party means
he's got an
runs.
expensive. What has he got? An expensive scotch all picked out, right? Isn't that what he does after his wins? I think
he might. Maybe it was before the wins. Maybe he's a little full on cake. I don't know. But Rick Waite pointing out, your first statement, Trig. I wish I could get bet against both. There are some 7.5s out there. So if you do think they get tagged, you can bet against both. I know that you have some worries about the travel spot.
The problem is, I don't think they both get tagged, though. That's the problem. Like, someone's probably gonna sleepwalk through this game. So I wouldn't bet the over. I could see one of these teams just like going in and just going through the motions and taking a loss. Like that's why it's so difficult to get on either of these things, in my opinion.
Hey, definitely a fair breakdown there and a great breakdown from the chat as well. Loving seeing your comments live here on the air with us. If you're watching us on the rewatch, don't forget to comment below. Me, Drew, Adam, we all get there in the comments and mix it up with you, even if you don't have a chance to watch us live here. We appreciate you whenever you're tuning in, and whenever you're tuning in, make sure you hit that like button for us. All right, gentlemen, we're definitely going to have some likes coming in here because we got best bets coming your way, and we got some nice prices to get into here. Drew, let folks know what you have up over at your page at wt.buzz/DM, and also let us know why we're going to be back in maybe the ugliest dog on the board, but it makes sense to me. Dodgers, Colorado. Talk about a nice plus money price. What are we betting in this one, Drew?
Absolutely, Dan. Yeah, I got a 4-for-1 Monday money pack up. So you get a discounted package there going on Monday with a nice 17-5 run in effect in that one. So a 4-for-1 package up. And guys, for the best bet on the show, let's head a mile high for the big home dog barking. We get the Colorado Rockies, Kyle Quantrill on the hill. He's actually been hot. Each of his last 2 starts, not letting up 1 run. Now he's up against the Dodgers. I know a lot of people out there like betting the LA Dodgers, a lot of big names there. I'm not necessarily, I don't have them circled as go against by any means going forward. But in this spot, heading a mile high to Colorado. Colorado, a much better bet at home. They've also been better against lefties. And James Paxton, he's 35 years old. He was drafted in 2010. Interesting stat here, Dan. He's never pitched in Coors Field. And a pitcher making his first start in Coors, that is a spot I look to fade. The Canadian out of Kentucky, I mean, he's had some good starts, but he's not necessarily a dominant pitcher that I think is going to run through this Colorado lineup. In spot-wise, guys, Colorado stays home off of the weekend series. LA traveling to Colorado. They're just 2-3 their last 5. That doesn't sound terrible, but laying big prices like that, they're actually down 5.5 units over their last 5 games. So not playing some of their better baseball. Overall, guys, hey, the home dog barking. I think Colorado plus 150 right now. Risk 100 to win 150. Best bet, Dan, it's on the rocks at home plus 150.
Wow, going with the Rockies, and Tyler there saying Dodgers might have a better chance with me on the bump than Paxton. I'll tell you, the one time I played in a celebrity softball game, I got called in to be a pitcher. Boys, I got tagged. I am not. You catch me in the outfield. I can get under the fly balls, but yeah, I mean, I got absolutely tagged, and I was just out there. They didn't bring in the bullpen. They just had me out there. Like 7 runs came across. Nightmare with me on the bump. So I appreciate the sentiment, Tyler. But hey, Paxton or not, the dog barking in that one, says my man Drew. Parlay Prince 1, best bet is Rockies. He's riding with Drew. You can also check Drew out right here on the channel. Check out the links in the description below, or if you're watching the show live, click on right over and check out Drew's Daily Diamond. Breaks down the games on the card that he sees value on each and every morning here. It's your nice precursor to joining us here live. Get some questions from Drew, especially on Mondays. Throw him his way when he's here with us live. Trig, I'm wondering for you, what is your best bet? And we talked about the Mets, we talked about the Cards, we talked about teams who are absolutely rolling. The embodiment of that in baseball is what you're doing, Trig. Whether it's KBO, whether it's here in MLB, man, I'm so happy that you are seeing it well. You trusted the process, and it is paying off here. So what do you have locked and loaded for clients who have been very happy these last few weeks, and how are we betting the Cubs and the Giants here this evening?
Yeah, it's going well. 17-2 my last 19 baseball plays, 10-1 the last 11 MLB plays. We're going for 6 MLB winners in a row tonight. I have a 5% MLB bet that's up for tonight that I love. So go check that out on my page, wt.buzz/AT. And of course, check out all the long-term discounted specials. It's June. WagerTalk always runs great specials during the summer. They're all up on my page, really for all the handicappers, but they're on my page as well, and it will include tonight's 5% play. So go check that out, wt.buzz/AT. As far as the best bet for the show, I suppose I'm still considering this one. I haven't got to the window with it yet, but it does make a lot of sense. And, I'll kind of continue to monitor lineups and whatnot to see if this is something that I'll add or make my card. But I like the Cubs. And, you've heard me say that a few times on WagerTalk programming this year. Came out of the gate saying that I wanted to bet this team every which way in the National League. And, so far that's been incorrect, I would say. They've been a disappointment to this point in the season. But relative to the rest of the National League, they're still very much in the mix. I think that's something that we probably should have pointed out earlier when we were talking about all the different games in the NL today. There's only 4 teams in the National League that have a winning record right now, which is insane. So even with the Cubs' struggles, they're just a game and a half back of the final wild card spot. And this is where it's like one team relative to the other. The Giants are actually a game ahead of them. But the Giants are in a far more worse situation than the Cubs are. And they're a far worse team, in my opinion, especially now with the injuries to their pitching staff. So that was kind of the one thing that was keeping the Giants afloat. They had a multitude of injuries. Jung-Ho Lee out for the year. Lamont Wade was rolling and he gets hurt. And then they've had guys bouncing in and out. Conforto was hurt for a little while. He's back. But the point is, the Giants, their lineup has been crippled since the start. And the one thing kind of keeping them afloat was starting pitching, because the bullpen's been a bottom 5 unit all year. And not only is, we all know Blake Snell's been out, but then, of course, over the weekend, Kyle Harrison hurts himself lifting weights. It wasn't even a baseball injury. He was in the gym working out on Saturday and sprained his ankle. So he misses his start yesterday. He's out for the foreseeable future. Giants bullpen in the last 16 games, the Giants starting pitching last 16 games, 5.28 ERA, 6-10 during that stretch. So that's not good. Yesterday, they have a literal bullpen game, Dan, because they didn't have enough time to get another pitcher. So a lot of times we say, oh, it's a bullpen day, when really they go with a team goes with an opener and a guy throws like 5 bulk innings. Yesterday, the Giants unloaded like 8 relievers just to get through the game. And that's not a very good bullpen in general. So now they're going to have to come in pretty much using everyone yesterday with Jordan Hicks on the mound, who is a converted reliever and hasn't worked past the 5th inning in like over a month. This is a guy that had a great April, but it looks like he's starting to, the conversion to to starting pitcher for him is starting to take its toll. He looks fatigued. Fastball velocity is down. ERA since May 1st is 4.30, as opposed to the sub-2 ERA he had in April. That's concerning. Hasn't pitched into the 6th inning. I think he's only gone into the 6th inning once in his last 8 starts. So that's really concerning as well when you come off of a day where you just used every reliever. The Cubs, on the other hand, Javier Assad, he's just kind of like a consistent. He's going to give you 5 innings. They're usually going to be like competitive enough to keep you in the game. He had a couple of down outings, but I felt like he was pretty good against the Rays last week. Again, nothing special, but he typically doesn't get crushed. So if the Cubs can stay in the game here, they should have a pretty big advantage once Hicks is out of this game. And what we've known from watching him the past month and a half is he's probably out by the 5th or 6th inning. And then I think, put him at Wrigley. That gives the Cubs a pretty big advantage in this game, probably a bigger advantage than minus 110 would suggest. So I do like the Cubs here. Hasn't made my client card yet, but certainly one that I have my eye on. I think the Cubs start to get it together, and I think it starts tonight.
That's a breakdown there from our man Adam Trigger. I was just pulling some numbers for our man over in the YouTube Shorts feed, JRT. He was asking about playing Nerfies. No run in the first innings. I love it when we have Ralph come on because he's kind of become Mr. Nerfy here at Wager Talk with the Gold Sheet. You can check him out at Cal Sports LV. He posts a chart every day of who is hitting Nerfies, who has been racking up runs in bunches in the first inning. JRT specifically was talking about Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. It's been away games that we've been looking at, but the no-run first inning, 5-1 in the last 6 games for the Pirates. They have not been racking it up, and now if you factor in Skeens is on the mound, think that he could shut him down, go 1-2-3 for Cincinnati. That would certainly be worth a look. The longest streak going on is the St. Louis Cardinals, 7 straight Nerfies that have been cashed, so they have not been hitting early in that one. You can check him out at Cal Sports LV for you, JRT. He posts it daily, and also over at his page, he posts a Nerfy free play on the daily. So we'll make sure we get to him and talk to him more here for you, but we appreciate you tuning in. Hit that like button on the way out, reminding you that Drew has got a 4-for-1 package up right now, 17-5 run that he's rocking with. Check him out, WT.buzz/DM. He's going with Colorado, getting the plus money. That's his best bet. Fading the Dodgers. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what you think. And Trig's breakdown there was on the Cubs and the Giants. You can check his best bet out over at WT.buzz/AM. We appreciate you tuning in here live with us in the chat. Ace Rothstein, Titan CT, Bill Seibert, that Parlay Prince, number 1, not number 2, number 1 right off the list. Tyler Have Cash, we appreciate all of you. Travi Yo D over on the YouTube Shorts feed. Maziz, we appreciate you as well. We love that you're tuning in here live. Even if you're watching on the rewatch, don't worry. We got info coming your way around the clock. If you are watching us on the rewatch, you don't have to go far to keep getting that info you need and love. You can click the video on your screen right now. We will be back locked and loaded with the Tuesday edition. NBA tip-off coming your way as well. NBA isn't done, and neither is NHL just yet. But how should you be betting it? You'll find it out here on the Wager Talk TV YouTube channel. Best of luck until then, everyone. We'll see you Tuesday for First Pitch.